for 6 years, just relapsed.
All right. Hello, hello. Welcome to the Wine No Wine show. Special host, Caitlin Lysat. It's my first time, so, I apologize for future. Anyways, our topic today is addiction. Why can some people pull out of addiction and others just can't? They just get sucked into the hole. Why is that? Today, debating with us is our guest, Richard Pace. We have Miss Lindsay over here, Miss Katie, and the wonderful Lynn as well. So to start off with, what are your thoughts, Mr. Richard? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm Richard. I call myself a classic illustrator to not get confused with other illustrators out in the world. Work with ink and stuff. If you ever want to find me, I go by the tag name Pace Factor, Pacefactor. When it comes to addiction, I mean, I've had my own personal quarrels with the beast, so to speak. Especially back when I was in the military, they put me through a few rounds, putting me in like an outpatient clinic and stuff like that because of my issues, which the whole thing was terribly unpleasant. Mostly because I also had to work at the same time doing weird hours. When it comes down to it, I mean, I kind of have a mixed opinion I do honestly think some people have serious issues and you just can't fix them. You just can't. I mean, sometimes you run into a person and it doesn't matter how many times you beat it into their head or you try to tell them the same thing over and over again, it just doesn't go through. It just doesn't work.
I like that. Thank you. All right, Miss Lindsay, let us know who you are, what you do, and your thoughts.
Okay, I'm Lindsay Burke, and I'm a visual artist in Houston, and I've been working on murals and other colorful pieces of artwork, and I'm also helping put together a mural festival in Gulfton, and yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram at Linds, Linds, so electric, and so it's Linds so _electric. And my thoughts about addiction, so I have some experience with sitting in places where, sitting in training programs where you're sitting with bodily sensations, and they were teaching us, so if you want to overcome any addiction, be it food, some kind of drugs or alcohol, you are just going to be with whatever sensation comes up, and so you're going to notice the sensation and basically not add anything to it, not try to take anything away from it, and that seemed to really help a lot of people that I was with, and it also helped me, so.
Oh, nice. Okay. So just basically trying to get through those uncomfortable feelings that everybody feels, right?
Right.
Very nice. Alrighty. Miss Katie, tell us who you are, where we can find you.
My name's Katie. I'm not really anybody special. I don't know a lot.
Don't say that.
My toddler would
Everybody's
disagree. I'm a stay-at-home mom and I work on the weekends at the new Bremen Brewery in Richmond. You should go. Running Walker beer. Shameless plugging. It's awesome though. It's new and it's got a unique vibe. You're gonna love it. But anyway, so I don't have any personal experience to addiction with like a hard substance, but I've noticed that there seems to be a trend of the security. It's what you're familiar and comfortable with. You can't seem to pull away from it. And I've also seen people, they realize that, they come to recognize that, and examine how far they've come or how much they've left behind with it, and then they take hold of the drive to pull themselves out if they need to, if they want to. I've also personally seen prescription drug addiction due to a chronic pain and that kind of a thing. Someone that I'm related to is currently addicted to their prescription drugs due to a lot of nerve damage, and when they forget to take their scheduled dose, they start feeling the jitters, like the muscle spasms and stuff like that. They notice their physical addiction to it, and it's not even like a mental, I've got to have this, the craving thing. It's just they realize they didn't remember to take it because they weren't in as much pain, and then their body reacted to the withdrawal. So
the body was addicted and they didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Miss Lynn.
Hi, I'm Lynn Logan, and I'm from right here in Noble, Texas. I recently actually just moved back from Nashville, Tennessee, where I was there for about 6 years. And I have a band. You can look us up at lynnloganband.com. I also do Southern gospel music. I have a song that is released right now to Southern Gospel Radio, and it's in medium rotation. And I just love life. You can find me on Facebook at Lynn Logan Band, and I also went to college for fashion design, so I am trying to design some of my own clothing. I had an alteration shop in Nashville, and as far as drug addiction goes, myself, like most people, have family members that were addicted and are addicted, and just from my observation with my family member, I think that and I've heard this on like the show Intervention, that a lot of people just try to suppress feelings or insecurities about themselves. Like with my experience, I personally think that it's the absence of a father. It's a young man, and he's trying to suppress, those feelings of the absence of a dad. And I think a lot of people, I've heard that a lot of people have like insecurity issues, maybe self-doubt, self-loathing, that sort of thing.
Definitely.
And I think that it's, you know, once you get addicted, and I've even heard people that, you know, I heard this one story about a mom that wanted to find out why her daughter was so addicted to heroin, so she took it to find out why her daughter was addicted, and she was addicted from the first dose. So then her daughter and her were both in rehab.
Well,
So
their daughter outed. All right.
yeah, pretty addictive apparently.
Apparently so.
But you know, I don't know why I've never had the only thing I can say I've ever been addicted to was smoking, and I quit that in 2005, and that was difficult. And they say that's the hardest drug to quit. That's what the experts say. I say they say. Who's they?
I know, right? They say all kinds of stuff.
The
all
experts
the time.
say that. So
Okay.
I don't know. That's the only experience I've ever had. I never cared to experience anything else.
Okay. Well, I get your point. I very like it. I got some vibes going on here. So my question to you guys is kind of, is it the drug itself, or is it maybe the person? You know, I feel like there's always different kind of scenarios where people blame the drug, but then they blame the person instead. What are y'all's thoughts on it, Richard?
I would argue that it's most definitely the person and not necessarily the drug. Now, there are exceptional cases. As she kind of stated, there's certain hard drugs that they're known for being extremely addictive upon the first dose. Methamphetamine, for example. Opiates like heroin in particular is pretty bad. Cocaine's actually known for being rather addictive as well. But not everybody has the same reactions to these drugs. And that's just like with any other drug too. Much like pharmaceuticals, there's some people who get addicted to certain pharmaceuticals, but there's some people just passes through them like it's not even a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Okay. How about your thoughts, Lindsay?
Yeah, so it seems like maybe people don't necessarily always know that there's a choice. Like, so I know for me, when I've had certain physical sensations and there were certain things that I needed to take to make those sensations go away, I didn't always know that there was a choice, that I could overcome that. Like, so when I've also ridden my bike really far, you know, 100-mile bike rides, things like that, I remember having those moments of, okay, this is a choice, am I going to keep going or not? And, you know, that wasn't really easy. And so I think maybe just having people know that they have the power to overcome things.
Okay. So it's like you're more towards about the person itself too, right? More than the chemical?
I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah.
I just see that in our culture, our society, we don't always
offer a choice.
Right.
Okay. All right. I like that. I like it. Alrighty. But Katie, how about you?
I'd say probably 50-50
50-50?
because of the fact that everyone reacts differently and there is a different biochemistry reaction. And just to kind of, you know, reiterate what Richard already hard-headed people that I mean, they're excited. They have that mindset that I like this, I can afford this, or regardless if I can afford it, I'm gonna have it, and that's just all there is to it. So.
Okay. I got you. 50-50. How about you, Lynn? What do you think? Do you think it's more based on the drug itself, or based on how people use it?
Probably both.
Yeah, a little bit 50-50 like that?
Yeah, my question though is why doctors don't. They believe what the drug companies tell them. So they don't really research the drugs to say, you know, well, they know that they can be addictive, but I think it's more like just from what people have come back and told them, you know, hey, this drug is, you know, I can't live without this drug. And then they start getting all these prescriptions that they have to give. But what's going to happen when the government cracks down? Because they're in the process of trying to crack down on the drug
That is very
doctors
true.
and stuff. It's going to happen with the ones that are addicted to it. So they're going to go to the street. You know, once doctors cut, we know that once doctors cut
prescriptions.
oxycodone from someone or something like
Yeah.
that, if they go on the street and they use heroin.
Mm-hmm.
So
It happens all the time.
you know, it's a horrible situation right now with all the suicides from drug overdoses.
Mm-hmm. So that's a good question that you brought up. So what doctors don't necessarily research, maybe. So maybe in that instance, it's kind of more the chemical in itself, right? It's like they're giving you technically heroin in a pill form with a
Exactly.
prescription. Here you go. But that is legal in our terms. So how would how would that tie into addiction to where? How can you blame somebody who's been addicted to that? Could you blame them? Could you
No.
blame them for that? Or
I wouldn't necessarily blame somebody for addiction or non-addiction. At the end of the day, I see it as a matter of will, but that's with me personally.
matter of
I'm a
willpower?
very, very strong willpower-based person. If I believe I can do something, I'm going to try to at least believe I can do it. And so stubborn as I'd probably bury myself in a hole if I believed I could survive the ordeal. But that's besides the point. But to piggyback a little bit off what she was talking about with pharmaceuticals and doctors issuing pharmaceuticals, I think that in itself is a whole well of information of just to think about. Because, I mean, a lot of doctors are in fact subsidized and encouraged to hand out pharmaceuticals.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them just, not talking about all doctors in general here, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great doctors out there. But there's also a lot of doctors that aren't so good at, coming up with the best solutions, and they'll often try to fix problems kind of like how a technician fixes a computer sometimes.
You turn
Where
it
they're
off and
just-
on again?
Pretty much. It's turn it off and on again.
Does your headache go away?
Shove it full of pills and it'll be happy. That's kind of their perspective on some things. I mean, example, I hate to bring up, I do caretaker work with my grandparents, and I tell you, there's a lot of interesting pills within their lineup, and some of them they do help a lot, but at the same time, I have my own, what's the word, constraints, so like just problems. Just looking at some of those things, like looking at antipsychotics and stuff like that to help deal with dementia. And I do see the benefit of these things. I do see how they help, but at the same time, talking to the doctor sometimes, I get the feeling that perhaps maybe there's not an entirely good premise for some of the things they take. I mean, obviously, it's like, for example, my grandmother, she has a terrible time trying to sleep. So we've been trying to figure out this problem in a number of different ways. They even got her, it's like recently she was having serious pain problems, now she's on muscle relaxants, and that's causing a whole new set
Whole
of
new
issues.
set of symptoms.
Yes.
With a whole new set of pills to take care of those symptoms. Right?
Yeah, and it's that rabbit hole of problems. I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand everybody dies one day. It's all about trying to make them comfortable and happy on the way down. Nobody wants to go just absolutely full of pain and terror. I don't think anybody wants to go drugged up out of their mind either. So, well, it depends on the individual, I would think, in that case.
All right, I love your thoughts. Thank you. How about you?
Yeah, so I'm not really seeing that blame is gonna help the situation, so.
Of course. Not blame per se, but I guess just what is the root problem? I guess would it be with the person or would it be with the chemical itself?
So this whole world is full of chemicals, so I'm not really seeing. I mean, it's like each individual has choice.
You're right.
So
Okay, well, you did explain something earlier that I wanted to ask a question about because it was
Okay.
really cool. You talked about body sensations, like the way they just kind of let you sit there and able to feel it and try to overcome that. What does that actually mean? Like, what does that entail?
So for me, it's less about overcoming and more about being with it.
Just like experiencing it?
Yeah,
Mostly?
exactly.
Okay.
So like, kind of training the mind to be with anything and say, okay, I'm not going to add any thoughts. I'm not going to take away anything from this. I'm just going to like totally experience it.
Okay.
And for me, that's like cleared a lot of things. It's really like opened a lot of things up for me.
Oh,
So it
very
works.
nice. Okay, very nice. I like it.
Yeah.
How about you?
So, if blame was the word that we were gonna highlight, I'm just reminded a lot of like families that are worried, like parents that are worried about their children, that kind of thing. So,
Probably shouldn't put blame right there.
well, since we're on
Please
it,
don't blame people.
and I
for
don't
their
blame them.
problems.
I mean, sometimes. I mean, I guess on that.
sometimes.
I guess on that
Blame
note,
them for their actions. emotions afterwards.
I guess on that note, I would argue that each individual person, despite their I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Despite their issues, despite their hindrances, every individual is responsible for themselves. So if they wanted to take a step in the right direction, then they would be responsible for making that choices. So, but as far as like family, I mean, the word blame reminded me of families that are worried about their children or relatives that are like on the street addicted to heroin or whatever. And I think it's easy to blame the drug and or the person, because in desperate situations we tend to grasp for something to make the faulting causation. So it's easy to say, it may be easy to say, well, if you weren't doped up, you wouldn't have done this. You wouldn't. If you hadn't have done this, if it weren't for that drug, you'd be home right now. So I think that it's mostly a coping mechanism to blame. But as far as the actual root problem, since you shifted the wording, I think people might have trouble wrapping their heads around that, because a lot in this world seems very black and white, and there's a lot of gray that we don't understand. So it's like, well, it's either her fault or the drugs, or his fault or the drugs, or the alcohol, or
yeah, exactly.
And I was gonna kind of piggyback on what they were talking about with the pharmaceuticals. So that relative of mine that's addicted to pain medicine had to start taking, I think he was having to take withdraw smaller doses from the pharmacy, because his doctor was suddenly restricted on how much he could prescribe, because tramadol has been listed or has been labeled as a controlled substance, right? So and in all reality, that drug and that dosage only takes the edge off of the pain, because there is so much nerve damage there, and so that became a potential problem for him to have to be able to control or keep under control the pain due to the nerve damage. So yeah, where would that lead to, like street drugs and that kind of thing? Or also, while the doctors are out writing their prescriptions, and they may or may not be researching the drugs they're prescribing, and then you see these old people with, they have their dementia medicines or whatever medicines, and then they have medicines to treat the symptoms of
That
or the
medicine.
side effect of the previous medicine,
Yes,
and
exactly.
so on.
Oh, this makes you nauseous. We'll have this for the nausea.
Right,
Oh, and then
exactly.
that nausea makes you. Oh, well, then
That makes
we
you
have
jittery.
And it
Right?
just-
And then we have this for that, and this for that.
Exactly. So I feel like, I mean, not to really change the subject, but I feel like the pharmaceutical industry is training us to become addicted to chemicals and not to more natural remedies and stuff, because it's like, well, this makes money, and then if they have to put a control on it, then that's where you end up with your crisis. So
Exactly. That's good. How about you, Lynn?
Well, and what she was saying about her relative that has the chronic pain, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Because that's my problem. I have chronic back pain, and I have been prescribed tramadol for my back pain, but most of the time I forget to take it. I'll just take Advil or something, and I just forget to take the tramadol. But I can do without the tramadol. It's not something that I need. I'm not like, oh, if I don't have my tramadol,
Yeah.
I'm not
you're
gonna
crazy.
survive. But that's where that's where that fine line comes in with me on, if someone is in that much pain and they need it, then give it to them. But I also my daughter has some relatives that were in pain and got addicted to the medicine. So now the doctors are giving them methadone to get off of that medicine.
But then they got a different
And
medicine.
then
to get off
methadone,
of
I
it.
think, is just as addictive as
Yes.
as
It is very addictive.
oxycodone or whatever it was that
Yeah.
she was taking. So it's like, the fine line for people that are really suffering, I think that the drugs are a relief for them. But I think that the federal agencies are cracking down more on it now, where doctors can't just, I stubbed my toe, I need oxycodone. I think they're kind of cracking down on that and the pill farms more.
Yeah, I think so, a little bit.
So I hope.
All right, I like that. I like that. So, I guess as far as like addiction, I do have like there's always two different types of addiction, right? You're either addicted wholeheartedly, you know, you can't have it at all, or you abuse it too much. There's one or the other. But before we get into, of course, all that debate, I would love to read a comment from the comment section. Carrion Massey. I think the biggest reason people do not escape drug addiction is because the person doesn't address the reason they began abusing. The reason most people begin taking drugs is to escape. The reason they keep doing it is because the escape is better than their reality, either internally, emotionally, or situational. That is a beautiful and beautifully worded quote. That's great. Okay, all right. We're going to talk about this quote now. I really like that comment. So that is true. Whenever I talked about the root problem, I guess, what is the root problem that people began to use drugs in the first place, I guess? Whether it be prescribed for pain, or whether it be for mental illness, or whether it be for because they want to feel awesome. So, all right. So you start with that one.
I'm
Mr.
not
Richard.
entirely in disagreement with that. I mean, my root issues had a lot to do with stress and depression, and it took me a while to actually understand that. But I'm always going to come back to the same argument. There's a sense of will that's always associated with that, and that really depends on the person. The idea of escape, absolutely, I can understand that entirely.
Oh, yeah.
The idea of escape. You're just trying to get away from something, but not everybody has the same ability to deal with those mental stresses and to deal with those particular problems. Like with cigarette addiction, you quit smoking cigarettes for 3 days, you start turning into a wacko like that. I know, I've tried.
Speaking from experience over here, all right.
I mean, you get kind of weird.
Kind of weird, just a little.
It's like I particularly had abuse problems, as you were pointing out. No, not necessarily long-term addiction issues, but abuse problems aren't all that different. It's kind of this cyclical problem of understanding someone's capability of doing something, which in my honest personal opinion, yes, I think anybody's capable of achieving anything as long as they have the willpower to do it. It's just not always matched by the person themselves.
Okay, that makes sense. Alrighty. How about you?
So yeah, that comment was really illustrating something I was thinking of earlier. And yeah, so thank you for that. And yeah, I wanted to add on and say, like, if we had a society where we did less escaping from things, if we had more of a culture of being
like
with anything,
accepting what is okay and what is not okay.
yeah, or just being with like what's real for us. Like, so if I have some truth but I'm afraid to say it, that's kind of an escaping, you know, like I'm hiding, or I'm gonna go distract myself with something else instead of speaking what's on my mind, or something like that. So I know like a lot of us grew up with the TVs and screens in front of us, and to me that's just like another form of escapism, and it kind of just leads to this addictive culture that we're in.
That is very true, because that brings up that addiction is not only just drugs and alcohol. It can be internet, TV, all that, food, sugar, tobacco, all that great stuff.
Absolutely.
We got a list. Oh, awesome. Food, sugar, alcohol, tobacco, people, behaviors.
Yes.
People.
Yep.
A people addiction.
Interesting.
Oof.
Thank you, Pablo.
Sounds the worst. Pablo Gluzman addiction. More than just drugs. Thank you, Pablo Gluzman.
Guess that's his name, Pablo Guzman.
All right, we have another comment on the board. Is seeing loved ones hurt, destroyed, relationships, etc. amount to an escape that is better when taking? How does the destruction left behind by those actions seem better? I like that. All right, I like that quote. All right, you got it.
Something to say.
You have something to say.
I have something.
Go, Canyon. Let's go. Let's go.
So, obviously, the destruction left behind, you know, because of the abuse, is probably not to the rational mind worth the escape. But I've also seen, you know, people try to face the reality and prefer the escape,
Yes.
and then when they're reminded of the reality, they just want to escape it some more, and it just kind of dominoes. You know, if it goes back to reality, they want to escape even more. It's like, oh well, I'm addicted to drugs, I'll just do this instead. But it's just more, you know, whatever.
More gas on the fire.
Exactly, more gas on the fire. Like that.
You can steal it. It's not mine. All right, how about you, Lynn?
Well, you know what, I was sitting here thinking, not to get off subject, but I was sitting here thinking, it's funny how your mind just wanders. I was thinking about Native Americans and other cultures that celebrated their lives like peyote.
Oh, yeah.
So reach a spiritual
That's
height.
right.
You know?
Ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, drug addiction is something that has been around since the beginning of time.
Since the
We
beginning
don't
of
really,
drugs.
you know, we always think about the roaring 20s, but everybody thinks, oh, everything was so great in the 20s and the 50s, but guess what? There was a lot of drug. They used to put Coke in Coca-Cola. That's why it was called Coca-Cola. Until they figured out that, oh, that's not good.
Man, was it popular?
Very popular. Yeah.
Very popular.
You know, give your kid a dose of the secret liniment to stop their toothache. You know,
Right. Go
rub
right
some
to
whiskey
sleep.
on their gums. That'll
Go
stop
right
them
to
from
sleep.
stop the teething pains.
Right. Well, I like yours. I like that a lot. But what about the quote? What do you think about that? So,
What's the
what do you
quote?
think?
I'm not gonna
my
reiterate
wine's
it.
almost gone.
Is it?
It's okay.
Drugs.
She might need some more.
It was the escape. Is the escape worth the destruction?
Yeah,
In my
basically.
personal, as far as
As far
the
as
addictor goes, or the family
well,
members.
basically, what this person is asking is, how does someone keep being addicted after they realize the destruction they've left behind? You know, how do they escape their reality knowing that they keep messing it up, basically? So, it's kind of a question.
Well, in my experience, the person that I know that's addicted, I don't want to say who it is, but
That's
the
okay.
person that I know that's addicted, that's why I keep having a problem trying to get out the person. They always want to blame it on everybody else. And I had that experience the other day when I talked to another parent that their son, you know, blamed him for the police coming and raiding his apartment and breaking his pipe.
Oh.
And so the son wants to blame the dad. And so, you know, I don't think that they blame themselves in the addiction. Is it better?
Is
or
it better?
worse for the relatives? No. For
So
the
it's
people-
worse for the relatives.
It's
but is
worse
it
for the
better
people
for the
that
person?
have to deal with it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's not better for the person. They don't, you know, the addiction is horrible.
It is.
So
It
it's
is.
not
Addiction to
better for the
anything is
person.
terrible. All right. We have another one on the board. Thank you, Lynn.
You're welcome.
David L. Pipkin says, is it blame or responsibility? Addiction to drugs is like cancer to cigarettes. Just like someone who smokes that first cigarette, anyone who makes the decision to partake in recreational drug use, who doesn't know the risk, has a plethora of other issues. The cigarettes cannot give us cancer unless we decide to smoke. We cannot get addicted unless we decide to do drugs. The responsibility for addiction always goes first to the individual. I like that a lot,
That's
Mr.
true.
David. I'm a host. I'm not allowed to have opinions.
I am absolutely allowed to have opinions, and while if you could put that back up, I'd really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
There's a lot of words.
There's a lot of
Thank you,
words.
David.
David has a lot of words. I've noticed.
There's a lot of
There's
words.
lots of stuff to read.
I
It was
like David.
enjoyable.
Thank you, David.
He is a writer.
I would argue you do have a point in saying that responsibility always does go first to the individual. I can't argue that at all. But that, like you said, responsibility is like cancer to cigarettes. Once you smoke the first cigarette, that's your choice when you did that. Well, I mean, you're also talking about, once again, a plethora of other issues, to quote you. You're talking about the issues like, speaking with myself, the idea of depression, the ideas of just, you know, having stress, having all these problems, and your immediate response is to do what other people are doing to deal with the same issues. I hate to say it this way, we're all a bunch of monkeys in a cage copying each other. And
I like that.
and
That's
what we're going to do is,
That's pretty good.
we see Bob, Joe, and George all go to the bar after they get done with work. You like my little sling on there?
Joe was like, what?
I heard my name.
Sorry, I wasn't talking about you. But,
I get that a lot.
but they all go to the bar and they get to get a drink because they had a crappy day at work. Excuse my French. But you going to that same bar doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have the same results as that person. It's
Right.
It's a little bit. It's like I said, I can't argue with. It's always the individual person's responsibility. It's your own sense of will and ability to handle things. But not everybody's built the same way. Not everybody can handle things the same way. And it's a little monkey see, monkey do. I mean, you're gonna go. You're gonna do what other people do to help deal with their own stress problems, and their ideas are not necessarily always healthy ideas. Or if you're 20 and young and you want to go do stupid stuff, you're going to do the same stupid stuff that your friends are doing with some weird old guy they found on the street. So, and I'm sure you can think of somebody who did that very thing.
Yeah, Richard. That was very specific.
I've done some very stupid things in my life, yes. But I won't go into detail either. But that's kind of my idea behind that whole mentality of trying to throw all the responsibility and blame on the person who did it. You're talking about a system and a whole society, an ideology of how different people handle things. In different cultures, people handle things in different ways.
Right.
That's just what it is.
Okay, very nice, very concise.
Yeah,
I
there's
like
one
it.
country where drugs are legal. So I forgot what one it was. Was it Amsterdam? Oh, was it there?
I think.
But
It's
truffles
also
are
in
illegal.
Portugal.
Yeah, so.
That was the other.
Portugal.
Mhm.
Yeah. How about you, Lindsay? What do you think? Do you remember all of the words that were in there?
More or less.
More or less.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so it's a little difficult for me because I had a bunch of heat problems, like heat exhaustion and a heat stroke last year.
Ooh.
And I found myself almost like, I would say, addicted to these little electrolyte tabs. I mean, they're just like little portable Gatorade. I wouldn't say like actual addiction, but like if I don't take them, I can end up needing to go get an IV from, a hospital
It
or
was
somewhere.
convenient.
And so it's just interesting
You
being
had
with,
yourself psyched up for it.
yeah, like being without them will kind of start to give me similar symptoms, like I start to raise, the symptoms start to
Really?
get. Yeah.
I don't know if I would argue that being addiction specifically. It's more like a
Right,
sense
but
of fear in itself that you don't want to go through that again.
Well, that's the thing. Addiction in itself. We read earlier from also in Pablo's list. You can be addicted to kind of anything. Addiction can be a physical response or an entirely mental response. So,
I guess
so
there's a
like,
point there.
I feel like that would fit. Because
You have a point.
I have met people that are like addicted to sesame seeds. And, that's just weird. Anyway,
That's a
there's
topic
no
in
help for them.
itself.
There's no help for them.
But yeah, so this topic is really interesting because it's like, I didn't purposely start taking something, like I didn't one day decide, oh, I'm going to start taking this, or like, oh, I'm going to smoke a cigarette. Like, I never had that,
Never had a decision to do something bad.
like something that I thought would hurt me, or this is,
Oh, that's good.
yeah. So.
Well, I like that though. I actually really like that. That's very nice. So you think more it's kind of the responsibility, but also things can kind of just turn out for you
Yeah,
regardless.
so now I see that it's my responsibility to do whatever I need to do to get back to a state of normalcy. So I've been doing research, I've been hearing other people's stories about how they overcame whatever symptoms they were having. So I'm kind of looking at how can I address my own root cause of whatever symptoms I was having so that I can get back to a healthy baseline.
Okay, very nice. I like that. All right. So we have a new comment. So now y'all get these comments. Do you think TV and social media are also personally destructive? And maybe even more so because of our lack of awareness of the impact. Oh, so that's a sneaker. It's a sneaker addiction, like a sneaky one.
Yeah.
All right. So what do you think of that?
I would say in some cases, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There are some people, I'm pretty sure we've all known somebody that would rather stare at their phone all day than do anything productive. Take a walk, clean the house, feed yourself, or addiction to the television. I feel like we've all known somebody that deliberately choose to live their life like like in sloth mode where they just don't do anything but. You like
Sloth
that?
mode.
You like
I like
that?
that. Sloth mode. That's pretty good.
I could think of people
It's
like that.
the exact opposite of beast mode is sloth mode. I like that. That's pretty good.
Beast mode, sloth mode.
Right? Yeah, you got both now.
Right in the dictionary.
Hey Webster. So, but I absolutely think that some people deliberately, live that way. But I would definitely think that it sneaks up on you. Like I was just thinking about how like sometimes I spend more time on Facebook than I do, cleaning my house or something else productive, spending time outside playing music or anything. And sometimes it does sneak up on you. You're like, just one more episode. I'm on Netflix. Just one more episode. One more episode. And like 12 hours later, cliffhanger. What?
Right?
Another season. Next season. Let's go. No, but yeah, I think they do sneak up on you, and sometimes we don't realize that we are addicted to technology. So.
I like that. How about you, Len? What do you
Addiction
think?
and everything, baby.
Oh yeah.
Addiction and everything. Yeah. I can turn off Facebook and go do my thing.
That's good.
She said, I know people that gaming,
Yeah, oh yeah,
another
that's
thing,
true.
gaming.
Gaming.
Just had that on 2020,
And do you think that we actually realize it, or do you think because it's so interwoven in society where we just don't even know we're
I
just
think
being
some
zombies?
Well, I think some people realize it, but others think, they don't see it.
They
Just
don't see it as
just like
cool.
other addictions, they don't think they have a problem.
That's true. That's true. I like that.
Mhm.
All right. Very nice. Very nice. All right. We're done with our comments right now.
Oh,
So,
torment.
So,
and
time for a
to
break.
time for a break. Thank you. All right, great. We have a commercial coming up. I don't know who it is. Thank you for our sponsors.
Thank you for the sponsors.
Phil and Derek's Jazz Bar in Midtown. When we return, our producers have picked their favorite guys, so stick around and see. Okay.
Jazz bar. Let's go over there.
I think you were supposed to read
I
that.
just read the teleprompter.
Let's all go to the
Like I
jazz
said,
bar.
I'm new. I'm
That's
sorry.
the plan.
Let's all read
When
it.
we return, our producers have picked their favorite comments, so stick around and see if yours was selected. Thank you. I tried.
Phil and Derek's Restaurant and Jazz Bar, located in the midst of bustling Midtown in Houston. You'll find a laid-back atmosphere and ambiance reminiscent of the comfort of your own living room, coupled with a flair of pizzazz and glitz from live New York-style cabaret entertainment 7 nights a week. Phil and Derek's is not only the ideal restaurant with a great, long-standing wine selection, but also with a full bar as well. Phil and Derek's stock and knowledge of wines, from Napa Valley wines, French Bordeaux, Spanish and Argentinian wines, just to name a few, are the envy of wine connoisseurs far and wide. Phil and Derek's Sunday Brunch was voted Best Morning After Brunch for 3 consecutive years. Come indulge in the ample buffet of crepes, omelets, various salads, meats, complimentary mimosas, and much, much more. Enjoy delicious foods from the kitchen until midnight. We're equipped with large dining areas, ideal for every party need, whether business or pleasure. Come see and enjoy all that Phil and Derek's has to offer.
Hi, I'm Caitlin.
Wow, Caitlin, you changed.
Caitlin's a little hairier and shorter now.
So this is what happens when the host has to have a restroom break and the commercial is not long enough.
You might have thought this was having some good
So,
I just wanted to hop in. I just wanted to hop in. All right, we're gonna do some music. We have phenomenal musicians on the show. We've got some live stuff ready to happen. So first of all, where can people find you, and where can they go see you and download music and just lavish money on you?
Oh, lavish money. I love that part. Man, please come lavish money on me. You can find out my schedule, find out more about me, all that good stuff. Click a link to buy songs, CDs, whatever on my website, which is Lynn, Lynn, Logan, Logan, band.com. There's links to my social media accounts so you can get socially addicted to me.
Nice tie back. Nice tie back, Lynn.
But I would like to see them actually at my shows instead of in virtual reality. But if they're not in the city where they can see us, then I do live broadcasts from my page on Facebook, maybe YouTube, or maybe we'll simulcast if I can figure that out, which is also Lynn Logan Band.
And I will say real quick that we have a professional sound engineer in the room at the moment. Mr. Nick Boyer with Mad Owl Productions. Is that right? Mad Owl Entertainment. Huh? Mad Owl Entertainment. Nick Boyer with Mad Owl Entertainment. And he is going to professionally record this song as a live song, and it will be edited and up on our YouTube channel sometime in the next so many days. So make sure you subscribe to us over on our YouTube channel, because that's the only place the edited songs are. They sound amazing. He does a phenomenal job. That's youtube.com/The Whine No Whine Show. And I will tell you, you want to hop over there and check out the artist, because in the last few weeks, we've had an artist go on to be interviewed by American Idol and got their golden ticket, so they're going on. And that was all through the show. That was some pretty cool stuff. In the next month, we're going to have a Grammy award-winning artist on the show. So we're getting some real talent on the show. It's pretty awesome, so make sure you subscribe over there. I am going to turn it over to Lynn now to do their song. What is this song called?
I'm actually going to do, I do a lot of cover tunes in my band, so I'm actually going to do a song that was recorded by the great El King, who was, I don't want to say Pauly Shore, that's not him. The little comedian that was in the 51st Dates. He played the, y'all help me here.
Adam Sandler? Is it Adam Sandler?
No, not Adam Sandler, his friend.
The friend.
Rob Schneider?
Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider, there we go.
So he is El King's dad. So I discovered El King one day, I think, on one of the late night shows, and was like, oh my God, she's fabulous. So I'm going to do one of her songs.
All right. And we're going to have a bassist hop in. Are you standing off to the side over there? Or are we going to give him a spot on the?
I don't think she wants to be seen with me.
No, I don't care.
Her husband says, I don't think she wants to be seen with me. He ruins my image.
He just had a minute. He didn't show up, so I was like, where's he at?
Yes. Are you you're over good?
Matters not to me.
You're good over there. All right, all right. So he's standing off camera.
He's the yin, I'm the yang.
All right, all right. What's your husband's name?
Keith.
Keith, just come over here, Keith.
Where?
Come over here and just wave to the folks on the camera. Down here, right in the center, right there in the center, right there, right there. No, yeah. There you go. That's Keith. Keith. So we're gonna have this tune. You guys are gonna jam out. Look for it on YouTube. I'm gonna hop up and turn it back over to my the host, Caitlin, who I was gonna say my stunt double, but it's in reverse. I was stunt doubling for her. So there we go. I wish I had a wig. I would have killed for a wig if I could have just hopped in with that. All right, you guys take it away.
1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I had me a boy, turned him into a man, told him all the things that he didn't understand, no. And then I let him go. Now there's one in California who's been cursing my name, 'cause I They always wanna come, but they never wanna leave. Exes and the oh-oh-ohs, they haunt me. Like the go-oh-ohs, they want me to make them oh-oh-oh. They won't let go. Oh, my exes and the oh-oh-ohs, they haunt me. Like the go-oh-ohs, they want me to make them oh-oh-oh. They won't let go. Exes and O's. Thank you very much.
That was
Awesome.
really good, Lynn.
All right. Bust out some violin.
Alright. Bust it on out, baby.
I have
Yes.
a violin.
Or if you're redneck, you fiddle.
Yeah, there you
Hey, I
go.
already called the fiddle.
Actually, a fiddle is a different instrument.
I know.
So, well,
Doesn't matter
it's,
right
it's
now.
the same instrument playing in different style.
Very different
okay.
styles.
I was classically trained throughout school for about 8 years, and then I took hold of Celtic fiddle and ran with it.
Oh,
Ooh.
now I really want to hear this.
Awesome.
So,
Yay. Do I get to river dance?
if you want, please feel
I don't know
free.
how, but I'll pick up my feet.
Okay, so do y'all want to hear something more upbeat or something more like a ballad?
Am I your way?
Whatever you.
Whatever. Huh?
Upbeat.
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 Yeah. Upbeat.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we're talking about addiction.
Do I need
so-
to get out of your way?
Let's keep it light.
Okay, so I think I'm gonna play. This is just a traditional Irish piece called the Kesh jig, Kesh jig. So you might have heard it in some movie or something. We'll see. Okay. Ah, I messed up. Whoa! Wow, that didn't go. One more time. How about this?
From the top.
I'll unmute it and adjust
There you
something here. Let's see. Okay. There we go. That sounds better. Thank you. That's
You know you got it in you. We know that.
I think it's true about like having a bad rehearsal before a good run because earlier it went perfect. So
I still
I
have
think it
fun
works
with
in
that.
the-
So
So it
I'm
works the
worried
same in
about it.
reverse. I got you.
Yep.
I think it reversed on me. So
It was beautiful.
well, thank you.
You're welcome. I wanted to dance, but I can't dance, and no one really wants to see it. So, alrighty. Repeat the subject.
Topic.
Alrighty. So,
Artists.
artists. We have other artists here, Joe.
Hello.
Alright. We
She
also
has-
have
she
Mr.
has
Richard
our-
Pace. Introduce yourself. What do you do? Where we can find you, and what you're
I
doing
am a
next.
classic illustrator. I work with ink. I also do some sculpture work as well.
They say something
Uh,
in theater.
Blah 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 blah. And I'm looking at myself on TV.
Don't look at yourself on TV.
I'm nervous. But yes, I go Pace Factor, PACE FATCOR. That's my tag name. Look me up. I call myself a classic illustrator, and I just work with those kinds of things. Sorry, just you got me all messed up.
Don't look at the screen.
My wife is saying, take it off the screen.
No.
There's the artwork.
Just.
Oh, nice.
Your artwork is being
Oh.
displayed.
Oh, thank you.
That's
Cool.
really
Nice.
awesome.
Appreciate
Is
it.
your new stuff?
This is a lot of my new stuff. Yeah. So
New
actually, that first piece he
There's
showed.
a delay between what
was-
you're saying and what's on the screen. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
The first piece
So
that he
just talk
showed.
about your stuff.
Blah. This way, that way, the other way. Well, like I work with traditional inks. For example, one of the pieces you saw has a traditional Japanese style to it. Several pieces up there are sketch pieces that I digitally altered as well to kind of give them a bit more oomph. So I can also put them on shirts and stuff like that too, because I'm vain that way and I want to see everything on a t-shirt. And a lot of the stuff is very mixed media. I use lots of different ink styles and forms. Like I said, I call myself a classic illustrator. I use traditional drafting tools. I use traditional inks and stuff like that, with a little bit of mix of the comic world and things along those lines as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. How about you, Miss Lindsay?
So I'm Lindsay Burke, and I'm also a visual artist. And the work that I do can be found on www.artsoelectric.com. And I'm also on Instagram under LINDSSO_electric. And yeah, I'm also working on a mural festival. It's in Gulfton. And so it's with this organization called CHAT, which is Culture of Health Advancing Together. And we are also working with the mayor's office and Houston Arts Alliance. So
Cool.
yeah, we're we're putting
Rock on,
together. Yeah. So yeah, and I also have a show coming up on Saturday evening. It's in Sugarland. I'm sorry, Missouri City, really close to Sugarland. And so that one is at a dessert shop. The dessert shop's called Sweets in the Sky. And the owner of that shop is going to be matching her desserts to my paintings.
Ah,
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
cool.
Awesome.
yeah, so she has like all these amazing desserts, like galaxy cupcakes, and like she has all these, just beautifully themed cupcakes and cakes. And so some of the paintings that I did match her desserts, and then some of the paintings that I did, she is specifically matching her cakes, like matching the colors, all the rainbows
That's
and all that.
super
so.
cool.
That is so cool.
Yeah. It'll be
Oh,
fun.
look at that.
Very nice.
Those are awesome.
Thanks. Alrighty. Miss Katie?
What about me?
Who are you? What do you do? And where can we find you? This is your shameless
You can't
plug.
find me.
You can't find me
can't.
anywhere. Yell my name in the
We can
woods.
find you somewhere.
You can't find me. So I'm a nobody. I was serious. I'm a Facebook lurker. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I work at the brewery, though. You should totally go there. Go see.
There you go.
And you come see the wonderful artists.
Find her at the brewery.
Yes. Wonderful
She probably
artists.
takes
I have
tips, too.
so on Fridays and Saturdays we have live music at the tasting room. Yes.
Yay.
I will hook you up with Sean. He's
Yay.
amazing. He knows Savannah too.
Which
So
brewery?
Fabulous.
so it's Brayman Winery and Brewery Tasting Room in Richmond on 359 across from the Swinging Door, if you know where that is. And it's the big warehouse looking building. But I'm there mostly like Friday nights and Saturday nights.
Cool.
I just serve beer. It's what I do. I love people. I love my job. I love my coworkers. I love my baby. I love my life. And I have a YouTube channel, but I'm not like famous, so don't look me up yet.
I don't think she wants us to look her up.
Oh, this is the place where you advertise.
I haven't even uploaded anything to YouTube in like years. So anyways,
If I get Luke out there, I'm
Looking
gonna
you up!
don't look me up.
Sounds like a good opportunity.
But you should totally look up Brayman Brewery, Running Walker beer, if you like craft beer. Anyway,
Craft beer.
what? Yes, craft beer, craft brewery.
Crap beer.
Oh, craft beer.
No.
Says the guy drinking
Craft.
Franzia wine.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
about you, Miss Lynn?
No, I
Who
was
are
saying
you? What do you do? And where can we find you? This is your shameless plug again.
I am, shamelessly,
Shamelessly plugging
a
myself.
singer,
in.
songwriter, musician. I actually used to play drums in my band. I played
No
drums
way.
and
Oh
sang.
my gosh, that's
That's
awesome.
Wait, you
And
play
I still
drums
do.
and sing?
Yes.
Like
Phyllis
sing?
Collins.
Oh my god.
Like-
Phyllis Collins, that's what I call myself.
Like
yeah.
Don Henley.
the Phyllis
Don
Collins.
Henley did it.
I'm the bastard child of Phil's bastard sister. In case he doesn't know, you got a sister out here.
You got a sister out here.
Yeah, I play, and I still play if I have to, but I prefer to be out front performing. Hence, I picked up guitar. Plus, that can get my husband and I more gigs as a duo.
Yeah, very nice.
And I recorded a CD, a Western Swing CD, so that's available. And I also have a Southern Gospel CD that I'm promoting.
What are they called?
The Western Swing CD is called Back in the Swing of Things, and the musicians on that is actually George Strait's Ace and the Whole Band, and all the songs
Really?
written on there were some of the songs that they wrote. So,
Cool. Awesome.
and you can find that on my Facebook page. There's a link to that on CD Baby, and also a link to my other CD on CD Baby.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Lynn.
And you can find me on LynnLoganBand.com, and that's also my social media links. And I do alterations in case anyone needs alterations done.
Fantastic.
The only thing I don't do is paint. And, I make clothes.
Hey, we can teach you that.
We can fix that
We
for
can
you.
fix
I
that.
know.
for
I
We can
got me
teach
a
you that.
book on how to sketch, and I haven't
Oh,
opened
you
it
don't
up
need
yet.
a
On
you
a
don't need a
classic
book for that.
illustrator,
You don't need-
just so
there
you
you go.
hear.
I fit that in my schedule.
Alrighty.
We were, and I didn't tell you my husband and I were actually on the show Nashville as extras. We were featured extras. Yeah, and now it's going on. They kept us afloat in Nashville.
Nice. All right. So our closing thoughts. We're wrapping up a little bit. To reiterate our topic: addiction. Why can some escape it, but others can't? Let's just have our go ahead. Oh, we have a comment on the board. Mr. Jack Pace, thank you
Yeah.
very much for tuning in and
That's what I
commenting.
said.
Sister Dan. Shh. Is that the thing? Anyway.
This happens to be somebody I know, yes.
Okay,
Maybe not be related.
Mr. Richard knows you. Actually, self-hate leads to many addictions, such as those who cut themselves or a self-hating alcoholic drowning his misery with alcohol. That is true.
Yep.
Self-hate leads to very many addictions. Leads to food addiction, cutting like you prescribed. Described. No one really prescribes cutting. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Anyway, what are your thoughts on
Too
that,
much
Richard?
wine.
Well,
I only had one glass.
I believe I stated before, I may not have actually stated this, but I think I stated earlier, he does work with a particular group of individuals actually handling their psychological problems.
Okay.
And the prisoners specifically. So he has his own in-depth view. He's also worked with APS and stuff like that as well. So when he says something like that, it's a very literal understanding. A lot of my ideas, I will admit, came from him as a source, though I do have my own personal view of it, of course. When it comes to self-hate and things like that, I mean, once again, it's like I'll always refer back to the person and their sense of will, because that's how I look at the world, so to speak. That's my lens on how I approach things. In essence, though, I can't disagree with the mentality that self-hate and self-loathing can absolutely cause way more problems than average. So.
Very nice. Thank you very much. How about you, Lindsay?
Yeah, I would just go back to the kind of the same thing I've said a couple of times, where it's like, if self-hate is a choice, then self-love is a choice. So I can see that making that choice would definitely lead to those kinds of problems, to addiction. So yeah, I think it's all about like really getting the word out to people that we all have a choice in every situation,
Yeah.
no matter kind of what it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice. I like that. All right. How about you?
Are we reading this comment or we're still on the same comment?
Are we reading this comment now? I'm gonna read this comment now. Why not? Alrighty. Another comment from Roland Lemus. The reason why some can and others can't is because the ones that can have hit rock bottom more than once and learned that it's time to change their lifestyle, or know that if they continue their lifestyle, that death is just around the corner. Thank you very much for you tuning in. I had to say death. He wrote it in all caps.
All caps
with a little
skull.
With the skull emoji.
Yeah. Had to put some emphasis on that.
Absolutely.
How about you?
So, I mean, yeah, I would agree with that. I think it kind of reflects what I was saying earlier about how some people find the drive to quit because they realize that the escape isn't worth the destroying the reality or whatever. And I would definitely bounce back to it. you know, it's a matter of willpower. If to the abuser, if the escape is worth destroying the reality, you know, then there isn't really any hope for us to pull them out. Because, I mean, if they're happy where they are, they're going to do what they want to do. So.
Very nice. Okay, I like that. How about you, Lynn?
Yeah, the rock bottom thing is an issue, but I think it also goes with what Richard said about willpower, because my son had a friend that I think he accidentally overdosed. His girlfriend found him in a car. Well, somebody found him in a car. I don't know his girlfriend, but they found him in a car, and I think he had been partying and was already inebriated whenever somebody offered him something that caused him to flatline. And I think that he may not have even known what he was doing when he did it, because he was already inebriated. So, you know, it's going to be a matter of willpower, you know, hitting rock bottom versus the actual getting into death. So some people can hit rock bottom and that brings them out of it. Other ones,
they hit rock bottom and say, I might as well lay here.
Yeah. I mean, it's a sad thing, but it's true. I mean, some of them don't get the chance to hit rock bottom, you know. Some of them hit rock bottom and it don't matter, you know.
That's true. And
I have somebody in my
how many
family
times you had to hit rock bottom, or you thought this was your rock bottom. No, you plummeted through.
Yeah, you know, the question keeps coming up to me though, and Richard might can answer this: is why do people reject rehab so much?
That's a good question.
Why do they do that?
You direct that question at me, and I honestly don't have a good answer for you.
Is it just because they're afraid of feeling normal, or?
I mean,
I believe it's a fear of change, maybe. Right?
I would argue that.
Yeah.
I would absolutely argue that. I mean, fear of change. I mean, some of it is you just don't think you really have a problem. I mean, when I had my problems with alcohol abuse and things like that, it wasn't. I never really saw it as an issue. Yeah, I knew I drank a lot. Yeah, it was obvious to me.
You were partying.
I was having a good time. I mean, I was dealing with my stress and my issues. But at the same time, I was not entirely aware of how my decisions impacted both my life and the people around me. And it took me a long time to realize that I was being an idiot, and a lot of money later at the same time, because of stupid decisions I've made. From what I could tell, for a lot of people, I mean, I was forced into going into an outpatient clinic and dealing with all those people. And a lot of the people who do the rehabilitation stuff, most of them were rehab patients at one point themselves. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the reasoning behind that is they have the most understanding. They've been through the process. Mm-hmm. They managed to make it through, and they're trying to pass on that to somebody else. I mean, as far as I could tell, when it comes to that specific question, when people are afraid of rehab, it's the idea that you don't have anything wrong with you in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. I like that. Y'all have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just that I can totally see what you're saying, and like justifying, I think, is something that a lot of us do. I know I've done a lot, like justified whatever I'm doing, and like if I had, when I had a problem and it just seemed like I was going to justify it until one day it's like, oh, I can't justify that anymore. So maybe that's kind of one path that leads people, into addiction and to stay there.
I would probably piggyback on the rehab thing, and I would argue that it's the willpower thing. It's the responsibility thing. It's the choice thing. If someone is being forced into rehab against their will because they don't think they have a problem, or they think they can handle their problem, or whatever the reason may be, they don't want to be there. They're gonna fight that. They have to make the choice to make. They have to make the choice to make the choice. They have to make the choice to take the step. So, I feel like that's probably why a lot of people would resist the insistence of their family or loved ones to go to a rehabilitation facility. So.
How about you?
I agree. What was the question?
Well, the question is actually what you asked.
Oh, well, see, I asked the question.
You did the question you asked me, to be
Answer
entirely honest.
There you go.
It comes round circle. Now it's your turn.
But I asked the question.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much. We're closing up a little bit. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much for being here, guys.
Thank
you.
you.
You made this evening very excellent for me. This is my first time hosting, so please, I apologize. I'm sorry. We are
fun.
here. Yes. Oh, thank you.
You were
Thank you. We are also here tomorrow at 6 p.m. live. Support the show, please, at Patreon. We have the Whine No Whine. It's patreon.com/whine, as in wine. No whine, no complaining.com. And I would like to support and thank you so much for our sponsors, Nicole at Pathology at EXP Realty, Dean DeBassi, First Choice Home Loans, Phil and Derek's Jazz Bar in Midtown, and Go 7 Life Insurance with Joe Orsak, our host. Woo! You can't see him, but he's throwing his hands up like he's a champion. Like
probably
you've probably already
seen it.
You've probably seen it before. Be sure to follow us on YouTube as well at youtube.com/The Whine No Whine Show. The Whine No Whine Show. There's a typo on the
They
telephone
say
there.
shoe.
I'm pretty sure
I
it's
need a glass of
show.
wine.
Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you so much, guys, for awesome interactions. This was really great. Thank you.
A lot of fun.
This was a ton
So
of
much
fun.
fun.
First
So much
time
fun.
host. First time host.
I hope I did okay.
I tell you, I'm gonna come in here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm coming in
All
here.
right.
I'm coming in
Thanks,
here.
man.
No one appreciates how difficult the job is. This is water. Actually, I think it's ginger ale. My wife poured some ginger ale for me.
Oh, that's nice.
No one appreciates how hard the host job is until they do it. We've only had a total of 5 hosts. Myself, David Pipkin on the Friday show, Chris, Harley, 6. Chris, Harley,
And then the other
another Chris, and you on the Thursday show.
First female.
And the first female host! The first female host. That's right.
We're coming up.
Hashtag them too.
That's true. Funny.
Them too.
We're horrible. Yeah, that's okay. That's all right.
Wow.
That's all
I
right.
acknowledge that was horrible. Anyway, I just wanted to give some shout out, some mad props to Caitlin here for a great job. First time out. It is so tough. You think you've got it until you sit here and then the nerves kick
then you're
in
just like-
and you freak out and you forget what the subject was and who the guests are and what's going on.
I'm so glad.
Who am I
didn't
with?
forget
So-
to
Why
say
am I here?
Great job. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for being supportive and a ton of great comments. It's a tough subject.
Oh, great comments, by the way.
Yeah, great comments.
I love them.
Super tough subject. It strikes some nerves for some folks. And so we appreciate all of y'all's support for the show. If you haven't already, and you guys as well, make sure to go to the Whine to Whine Show page itself, the main page, and click on the send message button. I don't tell everybody this, I kind of forget all the time. Click on the send message button and then click on the get started button. It subscribes you to our messenger service on the page, which is really cool in that 3 minutes before the show goes live, we send out a broadcast message letting everybody know the show's going live. So all you have to do is click on watch now and it'll take you straight to the live feed. So it makes it a lot easier to remember the show and get to the live feed really quickly as it's happening. So that's pretty cool. And then join us in our group page. I have to give some shout out to the group page. We have a Whine to Whine Show group, and you have to apply to join the group. We have to accept you in the group. We have over 4,000 members in the group now. In the last, the growth has been insane. In the last month alone, it's like tripled in size.
Wow.
And in the last 28 days, we've had 8,000. Yes. And it's not just me, I'm saying. It's way bigger than me.
Of course.
we've had over 8,000 comments on the group page. And I mean, that's an insane kind of a comment level. And the really cool part to me is that over 2,200 of the people in the page have commented, or in the group have commented. So it's not just like it's a few people. It's a lot of people interacting, and we really are on a serious mission here to save America, one civil conversation at a time, and to show the whole darn nation that we can talk about really serious, important subjects without killing each other. And
we're
being
all friends.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we're just trying to discuss tough stuff and work through. You know, I mean, this is a pretty darn serious subject. You know, we have a big problem in America dealing with the subject, and we find more healing, more growth, all that sort of thing when we actually sit down together and talk, and we can do it. So share the show, share the page, share the message, support the show, support our sponsors, all that stuff. We're out. We're done. See y'all tomorrow.
Bye bye.
Have a good night.